Hey everybody, I hope you're enjoying this little spring heat wave we're having. Kind of typical for northern Michigan, where last week temperatures were down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit and today it hit 85. So we get the extremes, can kind of mess with our trees and our plants a little bit. They start thinking it's warm, they leaf out too early. Then when our next little cold snap shows up, it can really do damage to those leaves or any of those flower buds, especially like our apples and things like that. So this warm-up shouldn't affect things too much. I do have some things I want to show you because we have gotten some things that started to bloom, and oh boy, there are the Canada geese. So that's a sure sign that spring is here. Before I show you some of the things that are blooming, I wanted to bring you here inside of the cold frame. Now, cold frame kind of looks like a greenhouse, but this doesn't have the insulation, and also this plastic isn't clear, which creates the perfect environment for us to store a lot of our shrubs and perennials in here for the winter. And the advantage to it is a couple things. Number one, we can kind of gate off the perimeter and grid it out so that the pests can't come in here. The ones we're primarily concerned about are voles, rabbits, and I guess deer too. So we're able to protect these plants from those. Also, they're going to have a little bit milder winter, and having that milder winter means that they're going to be ready about 2 weeks before the plant's outside, sometimes even earlier, which times perfectly when people start shopping, because when the weather starts getting nice and our shrubs start budding out, people definitely want to add more, and coming here and seeing things that are a little further along really encourages people to buy, and it's exactly what they're looking for. So we always love to be able to have this stuff just that little bit ahead. So that's the advantage of bringing it in here for the winter. And I have already done, like this fall, I had done a lot of my cleanup for my plants, but I'm going to show you a couple perennials that I haven't cleaned up yet. Just because for a lot of you, when the weather's nice like this, you want to get out in the garden. This little bit of cleanup is something that you can do right now. So here's a couple plants I chose just to give you an example how we do cleanup. Now, I did most of my cut back in the fall, so that way I don't have that much. But if you didn't, you might have stalks like this. I recommend always cutting them with some clean either pruners or bypass pruners or like snips like this. These are getting a little big for that. Then we just kind of clear out any leaves from around it, and you can see all that new growth. Going to give it lots of room to be able to kind of grow. It's going to be really happy with this. So that's our garden phlox. This one here is, I think, a type of like buttercup type thing. It's the double meadow flor plano. They call it buttercup of some kind. So in these, now there are some dead leaves in here, so we want to just pull those away. Nice thing is they're nice and dry. There's some weeds in there. I'm going to get those away from there. Don't want that in there. And we're just going to kind of gently pull those away. The nice thing about getting them now before the growth gets too big is it's a lot easier once you get more growth, especially when you're dealing with things like grasses and things like that. It can be very, very hard to get the dead stuff out without harming the new growth. So this is kind of good, and you can see there's lots of growth coming in down underneath. So now we're kind of giving it lots of space. It's gonna be really happy. This is a lupine, so you can see all that new growth in there. Let's get these leaves out of here. There's a weed growing in there. Let's get that out of there. And with plants like this, there's kind of a crown in there, and you can see a lot of new growth coming off that. I'm not going to get anywhere near that. I don't want to disturb that because the roots are right below that, and that's kind of the heart of the plant there. So I'm just going to leave that the way it is, and you can see kind of all cleaned up. Now is also a good time as they're leafing out. This is a great time actually to give them a little bit of fertilizer. So the best thing to do, especially if it's planted out in your yard, is to give it some compost. So if you make your own compost, or if you have something like a Dairy Dew product, really good time to do that. Now there are some composts that are very, very strong, and some that are just kind of more of a general purpose one. Be careful and read the instructions on those, because if you have a strong one like the regular Dairy Dew, it can burn it. So too much fertilizer can burn your plant and cause some damage. Whereas like a lot of times I'll just put Dairy Dew tree and shrub because it's kind of, I'm going to say, diluted, and I don't have to worry about that so much. Right now for these plants, just for the sake of making things easier, I'm going to just use some of these pellets. This is an Osmocote time release. One of the advantages of time release is that you don't have to worry as much about burning your plant, because this releases it really slowly, so you don't have to worry. Like if I put something that's instant release, I could put too much on and that could cause some problems. So with this, you should measure, but this is how I measure. I use my little measuring scoop that I carry with me everywhere in my hand. So that's how much I'm going to put in there now, and then I don't know, that should hold us over. That's going to give it some energy now. Now, if I had some plants that maybe were looking kind of yellow, or like they were, needed the nutrition, I might put a little instant release on that. I'd make sure and follow the instructions and be really careful about not putting too much on, because these are new shoots coming out. You don't want to zap it with basically more chemicals or anything like that. So this is really the way to go. So now I'm going to take you outside and into greenhouse 7 and show you some of the trees, shrubs, and perennials that are looking really good right now. So before I go outside, here are some rhododendrons, and you can see beautiful black leaf on this black hat rhododendron. These are the flower buds. These bloom nice and early, so we're looking forward to blooms on that. They're a nice kind of pink purple color. This one here with the green leaf is called Dandyman. You can just see, look at how huge those buds are on there. So these get beautiful flowers. Rhododendrons tend not to do so great in our area, but these varieties we've had great luck with, so we're happy about that. And then, let's see, we've got some peaches here. They haven't started flowering yet, but if we look down over here, I do have some apricots that are starting to flower. And apricots tend to be one of the earliest flowering plants out there. So it's always nice when those show up. So hopefully the focus is working on that so you can enjoy those blooms, because they are beautiful. It's nice to see that color this time of year. Let me take you around and show you a couple other plants. So over here there is a pagoda dogwood, and this is going to get flowers. Usually it's in May when we start seeing them. Sorry, the focus isn't working real great on that. So that's just getting ready. Over here are some red buds. Red buds, they have these dark leaves, but they also end up with these really gorgeous pink flowers. This is the, I think, Minnesota strain. So that's one that does pretty well in our area. Red buds can be a little iffy because they tend to be a zone 5, a higher zone 5 than us. And so they sometimes don't make it through our winters. But over here is kind of the showstopper. It is, I think it's the Snow Fountain cherry, flowering cherry, and it's a weeping cherry. So you can see, sorry, I got to walk through some mud to get into there, but just look at how that just gets covered. It just looks like a complete cascade of beautiful flowers on that. So that's always a great plant or tree to have in the yard because it blooms so early. And then it is interesting having that weeping variety. Now I'm going to take you into greenhouse 7 and show you some of the perennials. So I'm always a fan of the foliage on Brunnera. It's got that nice silver and green on it, and it's also got a real kind of sandpaper texture to it, and the deer don't like it, so that's a really nice thing. But what people don't realize about this plant is that it also gets little blue forget-me-not flowers. Let's see if I can get it to focus on that. See how gorgeous those are? And they're just little, pop-ups here of color, but they're just stunning. I absolutely love them. And they're just a really nice addition, especially because they like shade. We've got a couple different varieties. So this one here, I think is called Looking Glass. So it's a little more silvery, still gets those beautiful flowers. This one here is called Alexandria. These are just small ones. I think we got these in bare root, so they're going to get bigger as the season progresses. This one's Alexandria's Great, which is kind of paired with Alexandria. It's a little bigger. This one here is Queen of Hearts, and that's a Proven Winners variety. The colors are a little bit more intense in the blue on that Proven Winners variety. And then we have more heucheras, but what I really want to get to is right over here. This is Virginia, and you can see it has these nice thick waxy leaves. They are semi-evergreen, although in our area they usually kind of die back pretty harsh over the winter. But look at the flowers on that. They're beautiful, kind of well, it's pink, is it purple? It's really a rich kind of mauve-y color. They will fade a little bit more to a purple and then onwards to a real pale kind of pink. There's a couple different varieties here. So we have Winter Glow, absolutely stunning. And they call it Winter Glow partly because you'll get these multiple colors as the flowers tend to fade. So beautiful. And this one's called Pig Squeak. And you can see beautiful. The colors open really quite a rich pink, and then they fade almost to white as they go. But it's just a really beautiful plant, early bloomer as well. So it's a nice spring blast of color. This little patch is the Paschal flower, and it blooms right around Easter or at Passover, so that's how it gets its name. Really nice flowers on it, and this one is one of those nice little surprises because it just kind of pops up, gives you that color. We sheared them back last year, and we tend to get another bloom like in September, so we love the fact that it does that. And you can see how they kind of fade from purple. They get a little bit more of a purple red, and then they'll just kind of fade off, and then that's usually when we kind of trim them back. And I love the fern leaf on it, really beautiful. This is the cushion spurge, and what I love about this is you get such great color in the foliage. The flowers haven't even started yet, but look at how it's just such a bright kind of lime in the center there. It really has a nice look to it. Had a nice surprise when I saw one of the columbine were blooming. This one is the chrysanthia variety. It's yellow and it gets tons of flowers, and this one was blooming all season long last year. So this one definitely hits the favorites list. And you can always count on creeping phlox for some spring color. This is that nice one that looks great up against, especially against like a rock wall or something like that. But it only has its flowers in the springtime, but it becomes a complete blanket of usually pink or purple. Sometimes there's a couple other colors out there as well. Now I want you to write these two down because these are two great spring bloomers, and a lot of times they're done blooming in the greenhouse before we open for the season. But this is Amsonia, and this one here is called String Theory. So it gets these beautiful star clusters of flowers on them. We really love that sky blue color on them, and they have really nice foliage as well. This one especially is unique because it's kind of got this ferny, feathery kind of look to it, and it changes color in the fall too, so you get good fall color off of it. And then behind it is some Baptisia. Now this is just starting to send up its blooms. Baptisia is one of my favorite early blooming flowers. These get really, really showy plumes, absolutely gorgeous. And then I also like the leaves. They're kind of coin-shaped leaves that quiver in the wind. So, and it gets a nice, almost like vase or light bulb shape to the plant itself. So it's a good kind of addition to the garden. And there's several colors in blues and yellows and pinks. And these are just starting. They're not even close yet. They have pretty long lasting blooms as well. So I look forward to getting some pictures of these. You can't beat heucheras for color because they are semi-evergreen. So that means they do keep their leaves through the winter. A lot of times they'll look a little iffy if they had a really hard winter, but just look at how much variation there is in the color. So you have limes, you have reds, you have kind of oranges, and then these beautiful greens and near black colors as well. So these are all varieties out here that can take full sun. Meanwhile, inside here, and sorry, we have some plants that are pretty still dormant, and then some that are, leafing out. These are more heucheras, so you see the green, but look at some of these colors. These don't really like the full sun that much, so, but just beautiful colors on those. And they are starting to get their flowers as well. So there are some varieties that rebloom as well. So those are always nice ones to have. These are the Paris variety. That's one of our most popular ones. And that one gets nice pink flowers, and it is a rebloomer. So it'll bloom most of the season. I think these are heucherellas. So this is a little bit more of a trailing kind of variety. And you can tell that it's that way just by looking at those leaves. See how they're a little bit more pointed versus these here that are a little bit more rounded. So just kind of a nice comparison on those. I am running out of daylight, so I'm going to call it a night, but I hope you guys enjoyed the great weather. I know it's not going to last too long, but it is a sign of what's to come. We are going to have some beautiful weather, and we're going to have plenty of time in the garden, and we're going to have some great looking stuff really, really quick. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.